Okay, so today we have Julia Pegahmagabow here to share some of her the teachings that she has on the winter solstice. My name is Amy Commanda, and I am the Events and Media Coordinator with the Indigenous Student Affairs Office at Laurentian University in Sudbury. And so Julia is the Niigaanazit of the Economotion school that she has, that she runs, and she is from Wasauksing First Nation. However, she resides in Atikomiksing and Anishinaabe with her family, who she raises there on the land. And so I will just waste no more time, and I'll turn it over to Julia.
Bonjour, miigwech, Amy. Bonjour, Kinawea. Looks like mostly Quayak here today. Eh? Do we have any of our brothers with us? Any brothers? Male relatives? Oh, but anyways, it's really nice to see those of you who are brave enough to share your face or have enough bandwidth. It's a little strange these times talking into to screen, so but it helps us to accomplish and still be safe, right? That's our goal, is to be safe. So I'm really happy. I'm really happy to come and share with you, the little bit that I know about this time of year, and to um, share some experiences about how my family has transitioned over the um, through this time, where we began to look for the trail that our ancestors left and the generations that walked before us here, to make our way back and connect to Anishinaabe ways of being and doing again. And for us, that began back in the 80s, when my parents made their way to St. Charles and to connect to ceremony again, and really begin to understand what it meant to be Anishinaabe. Um, so one of those things in that in those early days, some people call it decolonization. Um, I choose to call it centering Anishinaabewin, right? Centering our ways, our philosophies as Anishinaabe people. And one of the things that we found when we went there was a different way of acknowledging this time of the year. So, we had celebrated the Christmas, participated in the Christmas celebrations up to that point, till when I was 11 or 12, and so, but when we went there, we participated in a gathering of the families that were there, and it was an evening. It was at the calendar New Year, and so it was an evening of feasting, of singing, and sharing. And the families who came to participate, many of them put together um, a giveaway of things that they had gathered through the year, and they shared those with everybody. I'm not sure how many people at that time were still, participating in Christmas the way many of us had celebrated, with putting up a tree and decorating our homes, and giving gifts, and wrapping them that way. But they, if they still did, they came together on that New Year Eve, December 31st, to celebrate the season in that time of the year. So from that, my father, Bimasake, he he just loved that, love the spirit of community and togetherness and selflessness and sharing, that he began to kind of look at what was happening, the kind of celebrations we were doing in our family and in our community at Wasauksing at that time. And um, he thought about things um, like Christmas and what it meant to put up a tree. He looked at things like where that came from and how it came to be. Um, he looked at things like the celebration of King's Day in our community, and in some of our communities they call that Chigamagi Chigamagishkat, King's Day, um, and how that related to the season and how we celebrated in our community and how we participated in some of those things, um, as a way to still um, honor our our beliefs and relationship with um, with spirit, and but still um, still be able to do that to a certain extent, um, but not be not openly in a time where um, a lot of our practices were against the law to be able to do that. And um, so he moving from that New Year Eve celebration in St. Charles and reflecting over the year, um, when it came time for that next winter season, he had a conversation with my mother, and then they came to an agreement, and then they came to the children, to my sisters and I, and we talked about what Christmas meant and what it was becoming to mean, how it had transitioned from something of a recognition of a holy time for a group of people to something that was, had quickly transitioned to a something that was more focused on commercialism um, and extravagance. And so for us, or for him, it had lost a meaning. So and then looking to do something similar to what we had been doing and had participated in there in St. Charles. Um, and so what he came back to us with was that we would have ceremony around the new spirit moon of of the January time. And so that new spirit moon in Anishinaabe, our uh, our our name for that moon is Chimanadogizis, the big moon, or the big spirit moon, and that would kind of mark a new year or a transition again. Um, and we did similar in our community at Wasauksing, where we had feast and um, we invited relatives and friends to come together to feast, and our family had quickly put together a giveaway, and um, we shared our good wishes for a new a new time. And we also that year did not put up a Christmas tree, um, and and we started to we didn't necessarily start to focus on the on the solstice itself, but we just kind of just transitioned it out, and we're just focused on finding that path again, finding the trail left by our ancestors, and picking that up and centering that into into our home and into our family, um, and letting go of um, of some of the you know the downsides of commercialism, of the holiday season. You know, one of the things that my father had said is that you know w- what he wanted us to learn, or could see us at a time in our age and our development too, is that um, he wanted us to remember how fortunate we were, and how blessed we were, and that we had a good life, and um, we didn't need to be focusing um, so internally on our wants, and to begin to think um, about how we share with our community and our family. So that's how in my family we began to make that transition. And over the years since then, I've begun to really look at the relationship of the solstice, of the winter solstice, and in fact all of the relationship of both solstices in the summer, and as well as the equinox in the spring and the fall, and so uh, beginning to look at those and how everything kind of fits together. So yeah, I got to stop though, because I forgot to introduce myself as you know who I am, and so I'm gonna take a pause there, and I will say Bojo Nindawe Maganinduk, Jakado Kwe Ndao, and Dicto Demgainin, Wasauksing Donjaba, Atikmakshin and Dida, Nijon Bedewayan, Minoa Niso, um, Miswenda Niso Medewayan. So my name is translates to Clear Sky Woman, and I'm from the Caribou clan, and I'm from Wasauksing. That's where I grew up, and now live in Tikmikshing, as Amy mentioned. I also I also have grown and got a lot of um, my spiritual and Anishinaabe thinking education in the Three Fires Medewin Lodge. I am second degree Medewin Kwe, and I am on a um, learning path, um, um, and seeking to extend my knowledge and my understanding a third time. So I'm seeking to become a third degree Medewan person. Um, Anishinaabe Endow, Minwa Onwe Onwe Endow. So I am Anishinaabe, and um, my my father's ancestors, um, you know, are I descend from all of the three fires of the Anishinaabe, um, Three Fires Confederacy, the Odawa, Potawatomi, and the Ojibwe. And in my mother's line, my mother is from the people of the Standing Stone, Onyadaaga, and also the Lenape um, people from the East Coast. So, so that's who I part of who I am, and how I came to um, this place and in my life. Um, so I just wanted to to talk a little bit more about the solstice, about Anishinaabe understanding about solstice, and it's really um, when we talk about the solstice, we're not really just talking about December 21st as the as the shortest day of the year or the longest night. We can't just talk about it in isolation because of relationship to all the moons in the in our year cycle, talking about relationship to seasons, talking about relationship to our solar system um, and the Anunguk, the stars, um, and also our relationship to spirit, and all of that. So it's there's a lot of intertwining stories, and so it's already 20 after 1, and I feel like the time is going to slip by. So I'll share as much as I can in this short time that we have together. So I hope you all have your Nibi Shabo, and we will share. I see some chats here, and I don't know. I just want to check those really quick. Oh, beamed again. Okay. All right. Having trouble with volume. Okay. Is that volume with me? Can everybody kind of hear me okay? All right. I know I have a tendency to talk low, and maybe what I'll do is I'll bring my laptop a little closer, and bring some of my notes. Um, and then Amy, am I going to have a chance to share the screen at all? I'll be able to do that, eh? Oh yeah, okay, I have
Yeah,
that a bit.
I'll make you co-host, and please don't worry about the time. So take as long as you need.
Okay, great. As long I'll keep talking if you have questions. I do want to make sure too we have some opportunity for you to share. So if any of you who are participating have some ideas or things to share about how you recognize this time of year and observe what's happening, that I want to make sure that there's time for that as well. so ah, so I'm gonna just talking about this particular moon, Manado Gisons. I talked about Chimanado Gises, the big spirit moon, around the time of January, according to the calendar that we typically follow. Um, and then, but at this time of year, Manado Gisons is the moon that we're in, and Manado Gisons um, is it's Gisons, meaning it's the small moon or the little moon, but it's not to diminish the importance of this moon at all, because what this moon is and does is it's signaling um, the solstice, um, and then it helps us to prepare for that that next moon. And as we move, according to seasons, December 21st marks the end of the fall season. And in our, right now, um, through this fall season, we have harvested food. We've been harvesting since, since the spring, really, starting with Zizbakudoke came in when we were sugaring, and then through the spring and summer, harvesting materials for our making our tools and our materials and things um, to store our goods, collecting berries through the summer, um, and then onto our Monoman Kame, the wild ricing. Depending on where you are, you might also be harvesting um, Mindaman, the corn, through to the fall when our hunters began to be active again. Kyusei, um, Kyusei Kame, and then um, you know to now where we're preparing. We're preparing for that winter spirit Bibone, to bring the snow that's going to blanket our mother Shikakwekwe, and blanket her, cover her with that beautiful blanket of snow, so she has this time to rest and rest and rejuvenate and get ready for another time in the spring, where life is going to flow again and life is going to bloom for us. So um, so it's all paying attention now how all of those cycles work together, and so that we can enjoy the life that we have. Our we do have our work over the winter with trapping and other activities, but just as our mother is resting, it's also a signal to us too that this time of year that's coming up with these winter moons, um, that it's a time, it's going to be a time of some maybe quieter, not necessarily quieter, but um, reflective spiritual activity and reflection. Um, a time where we might think about, where we're meditating more, reflecting. Some people will fast during this time. Um, and it's also time of, where we're transmitting and sharing our our oral stories and our teachings, um, and remembering our prophecies as Anishinaabe people, and also remembering and sharing songs that will help our spiritual growth and development. Um, so, um, okay. Um, so at this time of year too, when the daylight is shorter and the nighttime is longer, the it also signals to us that our spiritual the spirit um, world is very close to our physical world, and and for spirit, um, it's like things are flipped. So for us, we have the daylight of the sun as physical beings in creation, and this is our daylight. This is how we typically move around and we're active. And for spirit, nighttime is that is their daytime where they're very active. So when for spirit, when the night is long, like this, they have a longer opportunity to be active. Um, uh, so so that's really that really lends itself to reminding us, or um, understanding that relationship with spirit, and how it impacts and relates to us as physical beings. I just see a couple questions um, about this being the 13th moon, or the first, December 21st. So um, I will diverge a little bit, and the moons. I've been doing a lot of looking into. But yeah, tip, we from from Anishinaabe, and many like our other um, relatives on Turtle Island, um, and like the other people who follow, their natural ways and are paying attention to to the seasons and the relationship of the stars and everything that we observe and know, understand there to be 13 moons, which is really hard to follow, when you're looking at the calendar, which is broken down into 12 months. um, but yeah, this Manado Gisons would be like the 13th moon. um, but through the year, um, you know um, I guess for the sake of ease, or trying to follow, the calendar, Anishinaabe and other nations on Turtle Island have names for those months, just to kind of fall in line. Still trying to think about what's happening in a month, but when we look at the moons, they don't line up that way. They don't line up um, in a symmetrical or synchronatic fashion. Um, so, but typically, Meredogi songs would be that 13th moon, and it's different from year to year. So, where the especially where the full moon falls within that time frame, and how close that is to the solstice is a little bit different. So it requires, in trying to step out of the way we have been, the way we follow, right? Just in terms of how the 12-month calendar works. Um, it can get a little confusing, and I had a conversation about that with my uncle, um, Leland, and we talked about everything that you have to pay attention to, um, and that all the signals that are happening, at the different times of years, that signal what moon you're actually in, if that makes sense. um, because it's not, because there are signals happening through each season that we have to cue into, and a lot of them we have to relearn how to cue into, um, because we haven't paid attention the same way that our ancestors paid attention to those times, and um, and how things line up. Um, so I hope that made some sense. There's still a lot of reaching back. There's still more reaching back and connecting, and a need to pay attention to what's happening in creation. Okay. I wanted to also just talk a little bit about, in this signal, right, as the messenger, Manorogi songs, um, signaling us to get ready. Um, and we have so we have that shortest day of the year in the solstice. There are some things we can do. I'll just wait before I move on to some of those things of how people I know, how I also acknowledge and observe that day and that night. Um, but I wanted to talk a little bit more about a few things that that happen in the big spirit moon as well. Um, and one of those things is Nimco dotting. So um, Nimco dotting is a term that's used to describe like the new year, like January 1st. You know, it's and some people relate it to like if there's fireworks and um, you know, sometimes there are big celebrations like that um, at the new year. But Nimco dotting also is a signal of change as well, and it's used. So while we have this time of reflection in the solstice, and then we as we move into the next moon phase of the big spirit moon, it's also a time for releasing, and it's a time for letting go. Um, and um, you know, in the year, if you uh, you know, might have had um, you know, an argument with a friend or a relative. Um, you know, it's in this time of reflection, it you know, in reflecting on our relationships with our human relatives or with our non-human relatives or with the earth. Um, but you know, if we've had that kind of um, challenge, you know, to have a good relationship, um, we can you know, it's a time of releasing, to let that go, to not carry that forward in, you know, into the into the new year, into the days, you know, the time where it starts to shift um from the longer days, and then the longer nights, sorry, and then the days starting to get longer again. it's um it's a time where we can make offerings, um to think about those, and to put those down, and to commit um, to making, I guess, amends might be the right word, but correcting, to correcting that incident or situation that interrupted our healthy relationship with someone we care about, or something we care about. And so so it's a good time to do that um, in the new year, um, or in the new, like after when the new phase, I guess, of the when the new phase of the big spirit moon begins to happen. I think this year that's going to happen around um, the 13th of January. The new moon will start. Um, so it's and then sorry, I just have some little scribbles here that I wanted to make sure that I get through. Um, so time for releasing, letting go of resentments. And also, I mentioned earlier too that all of these moons, where if I didn't mention it, I was getting to it. All of these moons through the winter, we call them healing moons, and there are different ceremonies that can happen to help us, um, um, with letting go, and reflecting, and then preparing for the change of season into spring, and cleansing our minds, cleansing our bodies, and and preparing for a new cycle, when the snow goes away and our mother begins to wake up and things begin to flow again. um let's see. um okay, I wanted to talk a little bit about the relationship of the stars and paying attention to the stars as also another signal to us about how to pay attention and talking about the stars um, that we see in these winter months. And so just I'm gonna talk about um, two constellations. One, so I'm just going to share my screen here, and I hope it's not too messy. Oh, I tried to pull these up so that okay. Um, okay. Do you guys all see that? Okay. All right. So I'm going to talk about this fellow. Can you see this? Can everybody see this screen? Yeah. Okay. So this constellation is called he is called Bibonake um Bibonake Inene, and he's called the Winter Maker. And if you want to read a little bit more about the Winter Maker, um, I like this book. It's called Ojibwe Sky Star Map Constellation Guide. So I'll show you that there. And it's written by Annette Lee, Dr. Annette Lee. She is a astrophysicist, and she was actually came to Mamuzing, I think, well, the last gathering we had, the last conference. She also co-wrote with William Wilson, Jeffrey Tibbetts, and Carl Gaboy. So, so this guide that they wrote talks about Bibonake and Nene and points out where we can find him in the sky. So in the winter, we can see Bibonake and Nene in the south. So if you go step outside your door, if you don't have too much light pollution, you can look to the south and you can see this constellation in the stars. I also know this constellation in some communities. He's called Wasauksing. You may have read stories about Wasauksing in your studies or your reading as well. And so, and how you recognize them. I find this constellation easiest by finding these three stars. Others you may recognize. I'm going to flip a screen to Orion, if you are familiar with Western astronomical traditions. So, so these three stars here are what I look for to be able to find Bibonake, Anine, or Wasauksing. I don't know, like I don't know, I'm just myself beginning in the last few years to look a little bit more and try to understand the stars from an Anishinaabe worldview. So, you know, the last picture, Bibonake and Nene, his arms actually stretch. These two stars over here. Can you see those when I move the cursor? Yeah, so these stars here, over here, and then up and over to here. That's Bibonake's arm span. If you go back and look, whoops, I cannot click on that. There we go. Yeah, so you can see the arm span there and how it connects to that constellation of Orion. And so there's a lot of relationship also with the other stars. And since we're getting into story seasons, I wanted to share another story, and I don't have a picture of Ojig here, and I don't want to look really fast, but I'm going to share a story from a book written by Leanne Simpson, and it's The Gift is in the Making, and it talks about Ojig, who we see in the winter sky as well. I'm just going to stop sharing this screen here. And so this book here, in the tradition of actual oral storytelling, I'll read a little bit. I'll read a short chapter from her book. Okay. So this story is called Honoring Ojig in the Night Sky. And Ojig is the fisher. One day Ojig was out hunting with his Donis, that's his daughter. Ojigug are great hunters, but life was very difficult at this time because it was always baboon. Always. No spring, no summer, no fall, only baboon. One day, Donis and Ojig are out hunting and hunting and hunting. And finally, Donis, even though she is very tough, has had enough. Ojig, I'm freezing, she says. I can't stop shivering. I don't think I can go on. Oh, my Donis, Ojigug said, looking ahead and into the snow. I can see that things are so very difficult for you, but we must keep going and find some food for our family. Now, Ojig, but isn't there anything you can do to bring some warmth to our land? Well, this happened to be a very good question. It had been baboons for so long, though, that no one else had even thought to ask if warmth was possible. Ojig thought for a minute and then interrupted the silence. Let's get everyone together and see if anyone can remember a time when the land was warm. That is exactly what they did. All the animals came. The old ones brought their pipes, the young ones helped to smudge. Everyone thought and listened and tried to remember. After a long time together, they decided that the warmth must be in the sky world. Ojig Nagig Bijou and Gawing Gawingaagwe volunteered to go on the journey to the sky world. After prayers and ceremony, they left, heading for Epigishmuk. They traveled across the deep snow of the forest and the prairies until they came to the tallest mountain. Then they climbed up that mountain to get as close as possible to Gijik, the sky. Nagig the otter jumped first, but he jumped with such force that he busted right through the sky. He hit the ground hard, sliding all the way down the mountain. Bijou tried next, but when he jumped, he knocked his head so hard on Gijik that he lost consciousness. Goingaage, exclaimed Ojig, you are the strongest among us. You are our last hope. Goingaage did little pogo stick bounces toward Gijik again and again and again until she cracked open a tiny hole. The three relatives jumped through the small hole together. Goingaage jumped through the hole in the Gijik with Ojig close behind. The sky world was beautiful. It was warm and lush, where trees, medicines, and flowers grew. Goingaage and Ojig worked together to make the hole bigger so the warmth of the sky world would flow down to their mother. After they worked for such a long time, the snow started to melt, the water started to flow, and the world began to wake up. Goingaage and Ojig continued to make the hole bigger and bigger. Finally, little sky presence asked them to stop. Excuse me, you are making a big hole in my world. Why? I'd like you to stop because my world is losing a lot of heat and light. Please and thank you very much. Goingai was so startled, she fell all the way back to the earth. Ojig and Sky Quintus decided that if they made the hole the right size, both worlds could share the heat and light at the same time. Ojig chewed at the hole to make it just the right size. But some of the sky people weren't as kind as Sky Quizzants. These beings started to chase Ojig with their arrows. One struck her and made her fall backwards to the earth. Gujemanido watched all of this. Honoring her for her work, the creator picked up Ojig and placed her in the stars for trying to help everyone on Earth. So while a lot of people look up to the sky and see the Big Dipper, the Nishnabek look up and see Ojig, the great hunter. Every winter, Ojig is struck by the arrow and falls on her back. But during the summer, she rolls onto her feet to bring warmth back to her people. And one more thing, Goenga Ege has a really special name. Goenga means a shooting star, and Age means emerging from. A long, long time ago, four crazy stars were racing toward the Earth. Things got a little out of hand, and one of the stars crashed into the Earth, making a big crater. Eventually, that crater filled up with water, and after even more time, vegetation started to grow around it. After even more time still, the trees grew, and eventually it looked like any other lake. One day, out of that new pristine lake, a creature crawled out of the water, and that's the one we call Goinga Wolverine, the one that emerged from a shooting star. So that's Leanne Simpson is Chisa Ginganishnabek. She's from Alderville First Nation down in kind of southeastern Ontario, east of Toronto, and so I really like that story because it reminds us to look up to the sky, and it talks about the relationship. You know, when we look through all the seasons, um, at where the constellations are and how they move, it reminds us of that story and what's happening um, between the winter and the summer with respect to where we see the Big Dipper in the sky. So yeah, I wanted to share that with you and acknowledge Leanne Simpson with that. Um, so um, so in terms, I guess just we'll kind of wrap up here, start to wrap up, but I wanted to talk about some of the things that I do, and I participated with other Anishinaabe, specifically at the solstice. Um, to mark this time of the year and to acknowledge the closeness of our spirit relatives, um, and the um, and prepare for the time after the solstice when the days start to get longer again. um, how to prepare to be quiet and be reflective. So um, some of the things that we do include sharing food, and it also includes sometimes we might have pipe ceremony if there's a pipe carrier with us. But if we don't have that, sometimes we will just make a fire, and we will make offerings of food and a sema to that fire, and and begin to just again, it's being quiet. We're not necessarily doing a lot of sharing of our dreams at this point, but but just reflecting more on how things have gone over the year, and then again, reflecting on those relationships that we want to correct or strengthen, or send love to our relatives who might be struggling with sickness or loss, of grieving, um, and to send those kinds of prayers and love and energy out as well. So, um, so it doesn't have to be um, big. Sometimes some of um, my friends will do gift giving at that time as well. Um, but I think something that my father, Bamasage Aban, always always imparted to us, to my to my siblings and myself, is that the most important thing that we can do with each other is share food, and that sharing of food, that making sure that our community is cared for, the people in our community, in our family, are cared for. That um, that understanding that no one lives in poverty alone, and that we all take care of each other. Um, that's the most important time about any kind of gathering and celebration that we have. So, um, and that gift giving um, is a little extra, and it's sometimes it's gift giving. Um, Gifting also honors um, spirit, and sometimes we cannot physically give a gift to spirit to thank spirit for the blessings. So we gift those to other people, and it's a further extension, um, after food, of our sharing and our our love for this life, that we are so fortunate to be blessed with. Um, so some people will share that, will save that gift giving to that time in the next spirit moon, in the early days of the big spirit moon, when they're doing that releasing. They may make a fire at that time as well. They may make offerings to the fire, um, and food, um, and then they may also have a gift to represent letting go. Not that they're putting any of those difficult feelings into that gift. It's not exactly a representation that way, but it by giving the gift, they're letting go of that of those hard and challenging emotions and feelings, um, and kind of replacing that with something, um, with love. And um, so those are two ways. People may do them both, or people may just do one or the other, in terms of gifting in this time of the year. Um, so yeah, I just wanted to know if anybody else who observes solstice, or starting to observe solstice, had practices that you wanted to share, and give each other some ideas about what you do to acknowledge the solstice and our relationship with creation. So, Gintam, your turn. Kayla, you just flashed up. Do you have anything to share?
Yeah, sure. Me Wedge for the story. I'm really grateful for that. And honestly, like I'm feeling so lonely and like disconnected down here. I haven't been home since May, so really grateful for this today. Um, this year and in the past couple of years, my family has really pretty much stopped celebrating Christmas in the way that we used to. My parents went to day schools, and so they growing up they were very Christian, and I'm kind of the scrappy one who is like, I don't identify with this. And then our family started moving away from it. But in the last couple of years we really started moving away from, you know, Christmas in the traditional December 25th sense. So in the past few years, me and my mom, we get together during the winter, and we'll just make a bunch of stuff. Um, Mostly sweetgrass and cedar, like wellness things, like candles, bath bombs, oil rollers, like all kinds of stuff, and we just give them away to people that we care about, just to like promote their wellness and, you know, make them feel good about themselves, but also to show that, like, you know, we put time into this. And so kind of goes back to that, almost like a tobacco offering. Like it takes a lot of effort to grow tobacco, and so when you give it away, it's like telling someone that you are so important to me that I'm giving you something that took a lot of my effort and time. It's like that kind of acknowledgement. This solstice, I'm actually going to go to my parents' place in Port Elgin, and we're going to have a fire all day. I think we're going to have like a kind of mini sunrise, and then a fire all day, and then in the evening we're going to have food together. So that's what we're going to do.
Nice. Hey, Glitch. Hmm. Anyone else? Julia?
Hi, Julia. I just wanted to share what I've kind of been doing since I've been on my own. Um, After moving out of my parents' house, Christmas kind of changed for me. It's a lot of learning, I guess, new ways of celebrating, the winter solstice and things like that. But this year, what I'm going to be doing is putting out feast plates for all of those that we've lost in my life and also in our community. There's a lot of pain, I think, this year, and adding all of this COVID stuff onto it, it's just been very heavy in our community. So I'm hoping that people will come out as well and just learn about that feasting the spirits and putting out a spirit plate and what goes into it. But that's what I'll be doing to celebrate, and just taking some time to really think about my position and what I can do for others, and just try to spread some love. Good.
Glitch. Hmm. Any other ideas or things to share, Vivian?
I have a friend here in Sudbury who shared something with me this week. He says that Jupiter and Saturn will align to create the first Christmas star in nearly 800 years. And it happens to be happening on December 21st.
Wow.
So it says Jupiter and Saturn will align so closely in the night sky that they'll almost appear to collide from our vantage point here on Earth, creating a radiant point of light, often referred to as the Star of Bethlehem or the Christmas star. So I have a friend with a telescope, and I'm going to be heading out into the bush to check that out. I can put the link in the box if you guys want to check it out.
That would be great.
Yeah, here you go.
Me Glitch.
No problem.
Grab that. All right. Okay.
Ange has her hand raised, I believe, or his or her hand raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that because I can't go back home this year because it's not safe because I'm vulnerable and my family's vulnerable. We've been sharing back and forth like medicines that we picked this year and that we've, dried or stored or whatever. And my mom and I have cooked stuff at our own houses safely with masks and whatever, and sent it back like delivery style back and forth, and trying to share the traditions that we would normally do together at home as best we can as a distance situation. So we're trying to adapt as much as we can.
Yeah. Thank you, Ange. Yeah, no, that's being away too. Again, I think that it really this time of reflection and where we are, um, you know, not able to gather with our loved ones the way we have been in the past, prior to the pandemic, um, is really challenging. And so I think I hope you have great comfort in that, in the making and sharing of food, back and forth. Again, just always keeping in mind um, food security, food insecurity. Food is such a blessing, and we always need to remember that. When you're alone too, sometimes if you're in the city, or not able or don't have transportation to get out, and you can't make a fire, but lighting a candle is a great way also to create that warmth for yourself as you are reflecting, as you are meditating, and 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 so I hope that also helps to bring you some comfort. Um, and yeah, I don't know how many others are in that position, but I think that's really neat. I just saw a note here from Justin pop up in the chat. So hunting season is better than Christmas. And talking about solstice and sexuality, that the deer are in their rut right now. And if we watch them, are acting similar, particularly young men like young bucks. Interesting. That was Julia's comment. Interesting. Yeah. Leading up to this time of year, the hunting season, that is just kind of, I guess, ending for the most part for most folks. Also a great time to flesh hides and then and work on hides. So, there's somebody knocking on my door, but I can't answer the door because I'm actually in quarantine right now. So I can't go to the door. I had to cross the border a few weeks. I guess last week I crossed the border for a funeral, and so I can't go to the door and answer it. Anyway.
Well, this might be a good time to just say our goodbyes. So thank you so much, Julia, for coming. We're so grateful that you're able to come and share and help us provide these teachings and this wisdom and share between us and the community. For myself, Winter just teaches me to be humble, and to, like you said, look out for each other and support each other, especially through this whole year. I feel like this whole year has been a winter in itself. So thank you again for coming, and thank you everyone else for coming to join us. And we hope to have Julia back possibly in January for some more teachings, maybe on the full moon. So look out for that. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, Julia.
Miigwech Gibijayak. Thanks for coming. And yeah, go up min minwa. We'll see you again. Mama.